ARC. You want to come up front, and we'll get started with yours first, and I'll do mine last. Let's see.
I'm the Government Affairs Manager for the Atlanta Regional Commission. Linda Hamrick, who is also assists ARC. So call on either of us if you ever need any help from the ARC. Wanted to bring down Mike Alexander, who's our Manager of Research and Analytics. We have a wealth of data and information that relates to economic development, and just thought you all might benefit from some of the information he wants to share. So I'll bring Mike up now.
Well, again, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I promise you, this is some of the coolest information that I've worked on in a very, very long time. And I hate to use the word cool, but it is absolutely cool. So I'm going to... It's cool. It's an industry term. So a long time ago, I grew up in South Carolina. I remember going to the State Department of Labor office after I got back from Desert Storm and looking at the job postings. And I remember they were up on a wall, and you would literally look at the wall and literally look at the job postings, right? Some of you may remember doing something similar when we were younger. But with the advent of the internet, that world has completely changed. And I know the State Department of Labor and the Atlanta Regional Commission have purchased access to a website called Burning Glass that culls the web every minute of the day with spiders, web bots, that go and pull job postings from 40,000 different websites. So now their database has over 200 million job postings in it. And these are some very, very smart people. And they're selling a wide range of services. So the Department of Labor has access to something that helps do job matching. So that's a fundamental thing for them. And of course, we're very much interested in market analytics, right? So if you think of the old way that we did a lot of our work knowing about jobs at the ARC and at the state, you know, we know jobs by sector. That data always lagged behind. We knew almost nothing about demand, right? So what are employers actually asking for? What are they seeking? And I don't just mean the jobs themselves, right, but the quality of the jobs, the characteristics of the jobs, the certifications associated with those jobs. What kind of skills do those jobs require? Do they require a bachelor's degree, or do they not require a bachelor's degree? So this Burning Glass software that we've been working with is the data that I'm going to show you today. And that's why it's cool, because we've never seen anything like this. So we're out showing people this to generate interest in it, because you know, if you do workforce development like the ARC does, right, and we do this all over the state, everybody's got a workforce development board, this really improves the quality of your ability to do your work, because you know a lot more about what businesses really need. We've already talked to universities about this, so there's going to be a long outreach program associated with this. So I'm just going to whet your appetite with this cool data, right? So I've included the link. We're going to send you a Dropbox link to the PowerPoint itself. Now, we're pretty geeky at the ARC. I'm going to show you 20 slides. The main deck of data we've already analyzed has 250 slides. So I'm certified. I've sat through a presentation of 160 slides worth of data, and I think I should get a small medal for that. So my point to this committee today is, if you want to go get a lot more information, we're going to send you links where you can really dive into very specific clusters in a lot more detail and understand really how the market is working with respect to jobs, right? So I've already talked about what Burning Glass is, but it really is a database, okay? And I just wanted to show that window to you over there to say, look, there's a lot of different ways we can look at this data. We can look at it nationally. We can look at our metro. We can look at state-level information. Our license allows us to tell the story of the 10 counties in the Atlanta Regional Commission, right? So DOL has full access to that. So employers by sector, by occupation, right? And then we can search by keyword or description based on whatever skills or special requirements that might be required. So now we're going to get into some summary different reports that we've already done. So 70 different elements of labor demand. And again, critically for us is this idea that it's telling us what businesses really want, right? Don't have this lag anymore. And if you're thinking of university or what kind of training you need to offer to make sure our workforce is prepared, this is the data of now, and that's why it's so cool, because it's helping us to become more efficient at all these different services. So we've done all this cluster analysis, right, from high tech to biotech. Truthfully, I'm leaving here. I'm going over to Georgia Tech to the Nanotechnology Center to talk about nanotech with this data in just a little over an hour. So healthcare, supply chain, logistics, and of course manufacturing. Today, just to wet your whistle and in the interest of time, I'm going to talk about high tech, and that's what's going to keep us to 20 slides. So we pulled some state level data for this committee in particular, and really this is postings growth, right? So how much of an increase in demand are we really experiencing? So if I can hover over here, in 2007, Atlanta had 209,000 postings, but over 2013, that postings growth has increased to 384,000 job postings. So a lot of businesses in Metro Atlanta are seeking people to do work, right? And so at the state level, that's the green bar. That number for 2013 was 555,000 job postings, right? So the MSA, that 28 county area, is up 66% since 2010. The state postings are up 78%. So big increases, right? The economy is hot, and there's nothing better than what businesses are actually trying to hire for to represent how the economy is actually doing. And there's no real lag here in this data, right? And so if you take Metro Atlanta up, the rest of the state, outside that 28 counties, up over 100% in job postings between 2010 and 2013. So I'm going to go pretty quick. How does that compare to the rest of the nation? Because that's where the rubber really meets the road. Are we outperforming the rest of the nation? And of course, the state, we're up 42%. The nation is up 39%. So the state's doing better. And of course, Metro Atlanta is up 83%. So 2 times faster than the nation. All right, so what about sectors? What sectors are growing the most? So this is the total number of postings in 2010, right? So healthcare with a bachelor's degree is the most in-demand sector. And I'm going to go ahead and make my best joke today. If you want to be employed in this state, you need to be a registered nurse that knows JavaScript programming. You will be very employable in a modern economy, and you're going to see that over and over again in this posting. Because what's second after healthcare? Software development. Software development, right? And so what's the posting growth since then? Healthcare BA is up 54% since 2010. So take a second to look at that again. You guys are going to get the full PowerPoint. Software development's up 23%. Hospitality's up 242% from 2010. So big growth in that as well. But look at the percentage changes on internet security and wireless mobility, right? Think about internet security. Did that exist as a sector 20 years ago? It really didn't. This is brand new stuff, right? And that's why it's so neat. Home Depot's number 4 in internet security job postings, right? So that's very important to our large Fortune 500 companies have a big footprint in the internet world now. So this whole sector is new, right? And so how do we compare to the rest of the nation by metro? Of course, New York, 18 million people, 3 times the size of Metro Atlanta. The postings are going to be much higher. We're 11th overall. We're 9th in total population. So Seattle, which is smaller than us, and Boston, very hot job markets, have more postings than Metro Atlanta. And just for this committee, we pulled the state level detail. Obviously, California with over 35 million people, a very big state. So followed by Texas, New York, Illinois, Florida, and then Georgia, of course, which is the 8th largest state now in the nation. And so we're 10th overall in job postings. So Michigan and Massachusetts very hot on the job market side. So what are the top industries in Metro Atlanta? And this is very interesting for us, right? So look at the left, look at what we're seeing at the national level. So healthcare is number 1. 10,000 baby boomers hit 65 every day, right? And so with that new aging population, they're going to demand a lot of healthcare. So this is no big surprise. But for Metro Atlanta, look at professional, scientific, and technical services. That's number 2. And those are very high-paying jobs. Those are our lawyers, accountants, engineers, right? All in those sectors. And, of course, often they're consultants. A lot of them really love the airport. So that's second for us. And then retail trade is third. Retail trade is second at the national level, right? Georgia's share of the nation's top 3, but then has accommodation and food services So we mirror the nation, but then we have accommodation, finance, and manufacturing. So that's sectors. Now what about how people are actually working? And this is definitely one of the most interesting. The top occupational posting in Metro Atlanta in actual terms over the last 12 months is software developers, right? So there's a critical need in our high-tech economy for people that can do coding, that can do programming. It's a great indicator of the potential of the Metro Atlanta and the state economy. So take a second to look at this because this is very interesting. Retail on the national side, retail, nurses, truck drivers, right? For us, it's software, retail, registered nurses, and then sales, and then heavy truck drivers. So truck drivers are definitely very high in demand. And then, of course, look at computer systems analysts, how much higher Metro Atlanta is. And then we put together some, Georgia's top occupation is actually truck driver right now at the state level. And we're going to go very quickly through this. So top title, registered nurse. That's why I've mentioned that, right? But sales associate and CDL, commercial driver, very quick as well. And then software engineer and Java software developer, right? So if you can do programming, there's a good chance you're going to find work very quickly in Metro Atlanta in the state. Top skills. We wanted you guys to see this, right? SQL. That whole web screenshot I showed you was actually SQL. That was an easy tool that allows you to do SQL programming without having to do SQL programming. So SQL is basically a language to help you manipulate databases. And it's obviously very much in demand. Same thing for Oracle, and Java, of course, allows you to build killer apps. So these are very, very much in-demand skills for Metro Atlanta. Georgia, SQL 6th, and that's reflective of the Metro Atlanta economy. All right, so the great thing about this data is we know a lot more about education that's being demanded than ever before. There's a general trend nationally to really, it's upgrading educational requirements. So jobs, especially managerial jobs, that didn't necessarily 25 years ago require a college degree. Often now businesses will post those jobs and require a bachelor's degree. So you can see that demand at the state level on the left, and see that bar, big postings, 115,000 that require a bachelor's degree, and very similar numbers, the Atlanta number nesting in with that state number as well. So, you know, if you want to be employable, a college degree, there's a lot of demand for people that have finished college. All right, so this is the cluster stuff to keep moving and do it, I think, in a timely fashion. Top 5 MSAs, right? So we're 9th in the nation, like you would expect, in technology, computer IT overall, right? 63,000 postings in 2013 for that. This is generalized computer IT. So, of course, that's where you start to see metro differences. Look at San Jose. Relatively speaking in population, not a large area, but it's such a computer world out in San Jose and San Francisco. And then surprising us the first time we pulled this data to see Washington, all that governmental IT work and consulting work up there. So Washington is actually 3rd in postings per capita, right? So we control for the total number of people. But again, we've got a definite bump in computer IT. We're 7th in computer IT, right? And so this is just some summary data for you guys to really kind of put the measure on this. You can look at this in more detail later. But I wanted to point out, you know, who's really posting for these jobs? GM, right, which just moved to Metro Atlanta. And so we know this very quickly, right? Now, I just spent 2 weeks up in New Jersey, freezing, talking to Mercedes and, you know, about moving to Metro Atlanta. They'd already done their deal. I was there to talk to employees about it. And I tell you, they're very excited, obviously, about the weather in Atlanta, and I could clearly see that. I'm not used to living in places that get to -1, and that's one of the reasons I love Metro Atlanta. But I want to tell you, one of the most interesting things, two great points for this committee. They love the trees. One of the things I heard was that we got a bump because of how wooded our state is compared to more western states that I will leave unnamed. And you know what they really liked, and this is great for you guys? Access to a bigger labor pool. They were out in northern New Jersey, right? And so by moving into perimeter, from their perspective, Mercedes, one of the flagship companies on this planet, they really feel like they're going to get a better labor pool here in Metro Atlanta. And me personally, as someone who's obviously very much a cheerleader for this state and Metro Atlanta, I mean, that's something that we can all take heart in and feel really good about, right? So we're doing quite well. Now, I'm going to finish with software development. I've got 3 more slides. See, I haven't put numbers on there today to count it down to make sure I respected your time. And of course, software development is such a big deal for us. So software engineers, systems engineers, software developers, application developers. We're 10th in total postings. But again, this is something we really love. We're 6th in postings per capita. So we really have a critical, agglomerated market of interest in doing programming in Metro Atlanta. So we pass the Denver, San Diego's, Dallas, Chicago. We're stronger in this than other places. So one of the things we love, and when you talk to universities, I mean, they were over the moon, truthfully, about this because it really shows them in a new way what they ought to be teaching kids in real time. When I started working on this, and I'm pretty computer savvy, there were terms I had never heard of, right? What does Tomcat really do, right? Tomcat is actually a program to help you manage your websites, right? But it's a program you need. That's my point, is like there's things like Hoodup and all these different software programs that come up very quickly. And we need real-time data to know that that's in demand. And this is the kind of data that we're heavily invested in now to make sure our universities and everybody knows, hey, something's really taken off. Can we get our programs in a flexible way oriented to giving them Tomcat training, which is actually pretty important. So I wanted you to focus on that, skills in demand. Java, SQL, HTML5, which is the next generation of website programming, JSON, which is a spatial programming thing that we're very dependent on now at the ARC, whether you realize it or not, to make our maps, and of course Python, right? All our staff and research are taking training to improve their Python skills. So things that didn't exist, truthfully, 15 years ago are now very much in demand. And with the older data sources, we couldn't tell you that story, and now we really can. So, of course, you can feel the excitement in my voice because I really love this. So who's hiring? Who's hiring? NCR, right? Big move to Metro Atlanta. Had Agile First Pro, which are very much companies that help you get software resources, right? And of course, you got to have a bachelor's degree, right? To get into that world. It's very much a cutoff. So what I wanted to say is we've already emailed, I think, a web link to this data so you can get a lot more data. If you've got a county-specific requirement, maybe you're interested in Gwinnett or something, you can feel free to email us. And we've already done some county-level work on this as well if you're in the metro area, so you can learn more about what your county's actually doing. I'm going to be doing that in Gwinnett this weekend, actually, talking about this. So these are the links to the PowerPoint. With that, I'll take any questions, and thank you so much for your time today. All right.
Thank you. Members, got any questions?
It is cool.
Cool. Yeah.
I hope it's cool.
Good stuff.
If it's not cool, you tell me now. I'm
Tomcat.
going to try to heat it up. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for coming. We're going to move on quickly to a bill that we have here. I think I'll get Representative Tom Taylor to come and chair, if you will. And I'm going to present to the committee as something you've heard before.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, members of the committee. I'll bring to you again this year, and it's something that you've heard before, is the state sports fund. Why do we need this bill? And we've talked about a different mechanism on this bill before, and it's raising the resources to bid on local sporting events across the state, not just in big Atlanta, but across the state and some of our smaller communities. Communities like Rome, Georgia, which is trying to be a center for tennis events. The Legends event in Savannah, of course, which is going away. We've got an opportunity to bid on that. Tour de Georgia is going away. Some of these other events get an opportunity to bring them back to our state. How is House Bill 510 structured? The Georgia Sports Fund is going to be under the One Georgia Authority. The fund will be governed by a 5-member board. 3 appointed by the governor, 1 by the speaker, and 1 by the lieutenant governor. The members are encouraged, but not absolutely, you don't need to be, but they're encouraged to have experience in the Professional Athletic Association or experience in hosting amateur sporting events or experience in as a current or former athlete. DCA and Georgia Department of Economic Development commissioners serve as ex officio members, very similar to what we did with the Tourism Destination Act. The Sports Commission will receive an application for these funds from local sports commissions. And some of you right away might say, well, my local town doesn't have a sports commission. That can be your Chamber of Commerce, it can be your CVB, but the minimum requirement for them to request these funds to register as a sports council is going to be that they have $10,000 up front. So they have skin in the game. After receiving the application and determining the State Sports Commission's satisfaction whether or not these sporting events will generate enough revenues, enough excess revenues, to upfront bid for these events. And clearly you've got to bid for these events. You've got to guarantee the rooms in your area for the size of the event. So it's got to be planned out, and you can't just go bid and say, I want to be a member. It's an event that has to fit certain criteria. So that'll be brought before the Sports Commission and the Sports Council and to be agreed on. And people want to say, well, where does the money come from? This doesn't address that at all. That's going to be appropriated, if we so desire, by the General Assembly, and it's on a yearly basis. The dollars, how do we get paid back? The dollars generated by these events will generate sales tax, hotel motel tax, even income tax that comes right back into our general fund. So it's self-sufficient, but it will require, if it moves forward, a general appropriations in that manner. There is no tobacco settlement money that can go towards this. That's excluded in the bill. And as quickly and as succinctly as I can, that's the way that we've done it before we have to go to rules. And I wanted to bring this in front so that we can move this along and work on it. So I'll take questions.
Questions from the committee? Representative Broadway.
Just one question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, thank you for bringing the bill. Just want to make sure I understand about funds coming back into the fund, or money coming back into the fund. If we bid on an event and we get it, would any of the revenue from that event come back into this fund to help sustain it, or
No.
It's only going to be funded through whatever we as a General Assembly decide to appropriate each year? Is that
creates, and that's a very good question. That really creates a problem whenever we have a self-sustaining fund where the money is dedicated. And I'm glad that we don't do it that way, because as far as I know, the only fund that works that way is through DOT, and they have a dedicated fund through the gas tax. Well, I believe it's the responsibility and quite honestly the duty of the General Assembly to go back in and look and see if these things are doing what we want them to do. Mm-hmm. And it ought to be a general appropriation coming from members of this body every year to decide if we even want to do it again. So,
thank you, sir.
Good question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Representative Thomas. Please. 27 is, I'm sorry. Wave.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I know you're trying to go to rules, but I am totally oblivious to what is going on here, unfortunately. I kind of get a feel for it, but what kind of money are we talking about that we have to go and bid for an event? You got any idea? Or give an example of an event that we would bid for, and what kind of money would we have to put into it to get it?
The sports marketing fund would probably have somewhere, and I'm just looking at a round number, probably to start off with $100,000. And then, of course, the skin in the game would be the local sports commission / CVB / Chamber of Commerce. That would require or request to get some of this money so that they could bid on that event to bring them to their area. The best example I can think of is going to be the Rome event, which has multiple tennis courts that might want to have a regional, and I'm talking about several states coming together for a regional event. They would go to this sports commission and request that they participate. And then the numbers that this sports commission could can extrapolate out through hotel motel tax and through sales tax through the rooms that would not be normally rented during that time would come back to us in the general fund, and then we decide if those numbers are above what they have asked for. So it's self-sustaining in that respect, but it's not one where the money goes right back into the fund.
I guess when you say the bid process, what you're talking about is upfront money that communities would have to put into a project
Yes.
in order to secure it.
Right.
Okay.
And these communities are going on their own. It's very similar to what happens now whenever you go on the big events like the Final Four or the Chick-fil-A Bowl. We've got the head of the Chick-fil-A Bowl here with us today, Mr. Pate. But you've got to go bid for this stuff to become a participant. And part of that bid process and part of the bid package is the guarantee rooms and the restaurants and all this stuff that go into a package to generate those dollars coming back. So it's in that respect it's self-sustaining, but the money doesn't go right back into a fund.
Thank you.
We're running short on time here. Will the committee entertain a motion? Have a motion and a second. Comments? Okay, we have a move to pass and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, members of the committee.